At the outset, I would like to congratulate St. Teresa's Institute of Education for organizing conference, keeping in mind the need of quality in higher education. I'm going to present on preeminent placement and entrepreneurship assistance for student support and progression. We all are aware of it that the final outcome of higher education is either a good placement or an entrepreneurship, which can be in any area, which can be across all the sectors. And it is also quite seen that the institute highlight about their illustrious alumni, which talks about the success of the institution too. So for which definitely in the present context, we are talking about a quality framework of NAC or a new NAC framework. I'm going to discuss about the criterion 5 of NAC, which is students support and progression. We are aware of it. The criteria is with the key indicators on student support, students progression, participation of students in activities, alumni profile, and so on. And we are going to take the activities which are encompassed in the criterion 5, which is capacity skill enhancement initiative taken by the institute, guidance for the competitive examination and career counseling, placement, progression to higher education, students qualifying in state, national, and international level, students' representation in administrative bodies and student council and forums. We also will talk about cultural and extracurricular activities, number of sports, cultural events organized by an institute, and finally, how institute is working towards an alumni engagement and contribution. Now, we are all aware of it that all these activities which fall into a quality framework has to also contribute towards final placements and entrepreneurship. So the study tries to relate these areas, that how they can contribute to uh, students placement and entrepreneurship. So a small research was conducted. The respondents were IQAC coordinators. The sample size was of 32, which included IQAC coordinators of youth, undergraduate and postgraduate educational institution, all under University of Mumbai. The sampling was convenience. It was purely based on the IQAC coordinators whom I knew. I have done descriptive analysis, and we have taken the responses in both the forms, structured as well as unstructured. A structured questionnaire was on a 4-point scale, which talks about how these activities contribute towards the final placement and entrepreneurship. So the 4 points included, they do not contribute at all. They do contribute to some extent, they contribute moderately, and they contribute to a greater extent. The objective of the study taken is to map the activities which are given under criterion 5 of NAC manual towards institutes placement and entrepreneurship, and also to see that how UG and PG institutes respond to these activities, and also to suggest the strategy for placement and entrepreneurship, keeping in mind that these activities can be a part of a final outcome, that is placement and entrepreneurship. So first analysis was done. The mean was between 3.59 from 4 to 3.06. It was very clear that activities towards placement and entrepreneurship contribute 100%. It means there was all the respondent agreed strongly that it is ultimately the placement cell and the entrepreneurship cell which plays a very important role, followed by capacity enhancement skills, followed by which there was guidance for a competitive exams, followed by which there was student representation in different student council bodies and forum, and so on. So one thing was clear, that all the activities contribute to a greater extent towards the placement and entrepreneurship. Now, when we bifurcated it on the basis of UG and PG, and to measure that to what extent the capacity building and skill enhancement initiatives of the institute works or contributes towards the placement. It was more or less same for UG and PG, where most of them felt that either it contributes moderately or contributes to a greater extent in terms of placement and entrepreneurship. Another uh, component which we took was the guidance for competitive exams, where again it was very clear that it contribute to a greater extent or moderate. None of the responses were on contribute to some extent or does not contribute. So it is quite evident that even the competitive exams and a career counseling works towards the placement. Another important thing was that guidance for these competitive exams. So it was very clear that guidance also works to a greater extent and the progression of the candidates towards the higher education. So it was clear that, and especially under undergraduate, it contributes greatly because ultimately post graduation leads to a final placement by and large. So most of them felt under at a UG level that contribution or of progression to higher education to placement and entrepreneurship got contributes greatly, but at PG level they felt there is less use of further higher education provided if the students are interested in research or in academics, then it will contribute. Another contribution of students qualifying at competitive exam towards placement, even at the UG level it was very significant, and PG level also it showed some amount of great contribution towards a placement. Awards and prizes. This was one area where most of the IQAC coordinators felt they contribute to moderately or to some extent as compared to, they do not contribute greatly as compared to other components under discussion. This was interesting that students' representation in several bodies and forums, it contributes to a moderately or to a greater extent, because definitely they learn a lot of decision making, they learn how to make decisions, they learn different planning skills and all, and managing skills. So definitely it contributes to a greater extent. Students participation in activities and competitions also contribute to a moderate level to a greater level. Alumni's contribution contributes moderately at UG level, but when you compare it PG level, it is a big contribution of the alumni. Now, based on these responses, a strategy was developed so that it can ultimately lead to an effective placements, and students, those who are interested in entrepreneurship, can venture into business. At the entry level, it is important to identify what exactly is students' interest and what can be done. Students with similar interests can be put together. Now, this is purely based on interest. There shouldn't be any other parameter of segmenting the students. Once you have done, then you can identify the competition and activities which can match with the students' interest. At the same time, career counseling should also be in such a way that a student of similar interest should be counseled for taking up the employment opportunities or entrepreneurship opportunities based on their interest. Definitely, I feel that this is becoming more important in light of new education policy, which very clearly gives students a wide range of options. But it is not a limiting factor currently also. If we can map students' interest properly, and accordingly we send them for the competitions of their interest, we tell them to participate based on the activities of their interest. If we do a career counseling mapping or matching with their interest, it will increase their involvement also. Another big challenge is when we conduct these skill enhancement and capacity building, generally what we do is we conduct it for all the students or most of the students. But if it can be designed based on the interested students, for example, a group of students are interested in music, then we can definitely identify some skill enhancement or capacity building initiative where they can pursue their career in music or such thing. So it is quite evident that if you are clubbing it on the student basis, then you have to carry out different initiatives based on the interest. And I have discussed in the later part, it will be difficult, but then it can be done. We can go ahead with this. Increasing the participation as participant as well as organizer. This is something to do with students' engagement in various bodies, student council and forums. It is quite evident that the more students participate, more they organize, they learn all management skills, and it is learning by doing. Finally, when you track their performance in all what you have done in terms of competition, in terms of skills, in terms of skill enhancement courses, in terms of certification, finally this entire performance need to be shared with the placement and entrepreneurship set. Once this is done, the activities by and large which are covered at an institute level are taken care of. Then comes the role of alumni who will participate in screening process based on the entire records which are given to the placement cell or an entrepreneurship cell. And they will also do a hand holding and give the guidance to the students. As such, the contribution of alumni will be of a great significance. Finally, placement cell or an entrepreneurship development cell should take a charge and map their interest with the available opportunities. If it can be done at the entry level, it can definitely enhance the quality of the institution. At the same time, students will be happy that they exactly are being guided for what they love to do. Coming to the discussion part, it will be very difficult. For example, if one says that to conduct so many skill enhancement program, it will be definitely bit difficult, because again, identifying students' interests, uh, doing a career counseling based on their interest. At the same time, we talk about the different skill enhancement initiatives, again to be mapped with the interest. I can understand it is tedious to organize, but if it can be done, it will be really meaningful. At the same time, if you compare UG and PG students, the more or less hand holding is important, because until and unless you don't do hand holding and finally give it to your placement cell or an entrepreneurship cell, it will not make sense. I'm not ruling out the importance of sports, cultural, and extracurricular activities also. They make a lot of sense. And what you should teach, or what we should teach rather, students, at how these activities, even if they are not for your career, even if they are not for your placement, they are very useful in maintaining your work-life balance. So this is may not directly contribute, but it can indirectly be of a greater importance. Career counseling plays a very important role, because the hand holding purely is based on how we do a counseling for our students. And as I told you, with the help of students' participation in forums, they learn a lot of things which really makes a meaning. I will say that all the activities which are given in criterion 5 of a NAC framework or a new framework, if they are executed properly, with the outcome based focus, that what I'm discussing is from the placement and entrepreneurship perspective, will help us in two things. It will help us in enhancing the quality of the institution, and at the same time we will generate an illustrious alumni. With this, thank you so much. Take care, stay safe. Thanks.